Today we're looking at Section 3 of Chapter 27, India seeking self-rule and conditions as far as Indian nationalism with a focus on Mahatma Gandhi. That being said, we're going to start off with our key terms as always. The Amritsar Massacre featured protests and riots against British rule that ultimately caused the independence movement of India. Now the most important idea here is it caused the independence movement of India. Because remember, 400 roughly, were murdered by the British military, with thousands of more becoming injured. Previously, all they wanted were more rights. Now we're seeking full independence. Okay? Aisma, ancient doctrine of nonviolence and reverence for all life. So the most important idea of this, nonviolence, reverence for life. That's going to be one of the keystones of Gandhi's approach towards protest and reform. Okay? There's no need for violence whatsoever. Everything can be solved diplomatically through discussion. Okay? Civil disobedience, the refusal to obey unjust laws. If the law is refraining you from exercising some kind of right you have, then that law is inherently unjust. Thus, you don't have to follow it. For example, Martin Luther King Jr. was a huge advocate for civil disobedience, with the Montgomery Freedom bus rides, sit-in strikes, etc., etc. If the law is wrong, it's not a law, so you don't have to follow it. Untouchables, members of the lowest social caste in India. Now when we see caste here, I want you guys to remember that's kind of where we started the class in the fall, where we have that feudal triangle, right?
Yeah.
That would be the caste that would represent down here. Okay, you have your rulers up top, your higher members of society in the government, the middle class, and then the untouchables. Okay? Some people would even argue that they would be below the triangle in this region. They are that low in society. And that's one of the things that Gandhi's going to go forth and try to reform. Give these people, essentially, a reason for existence. Give them cause to life through rights, through the ability to do better. Boycott, the refusal to buy something. Now that could be anything. For whatever reason, typically government inspired, so we're going to write that down. Government inspired. Refusal to buy something. For example, let's say, a certain company is known for using harsh child labor overseas, and people catch wind of this. Thus, you all would not buy that product anymore because with you purchasing that product, you're also subjecting children in another country to harsh labor and possibly even death because of working conditions. Those are examples of boycott. Okay? Now, that being said, Gandhi's key ideas that we have here. Aisma, nonviolence. Okay, his approach to here, this is what we have, approach. Nonviolence, number one. Satyagraha, nonviolent resistance. Okay, now that can come the way of boycotts, so we're going to write that down. Boycotts. You also could have rallies there as well, having a social rally. Okay. Civil disobedience, refusal to obey unjust laws. That makes sense because if you look at this, it's peaceful, and it's peaceful. If the law is wrong and restricting your rights, so no rights, then there's no reason to obey it. Okay? That being said, the question is often posed, how did Gandhi put these ideas into practice? So here's the approach, right here. Now we're looking at practice. What is he going to do to actually make sure these ideas are executed? We have the boycotting. Called for Indians to boycott British goods in favor of self-sufficiency. Now what does self-sufficiency mean? Mr. Silverhorn?
The ability to supply your own goods and live off your own goods, like a farm or something?
Absolutely. The ability to provide the necessities that you all need for life yourself. Whether that be farming, having a garden, going out to the ocean because we're in India, or the rivers to actually fish, rather than rely on British products. Okay? Nonviolent civil disobedience is the main thing here. Regardless, you could be pushed and pushed and pushed to the brink of wanting to start some kind of a fight, but you should not do it because we have the Amritsar Massacre as an example. We know what's going to happen. And it's not going to be pretty for the Indians. That being said, some symbolic protests. Number one, the Great Salt March. Make sure you all have this name. Started with 78 people, ended with thousands as he's marching to the Indian Ocean. All over the British salt monopoly. Now consider this. The ocean's made of salt water, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, now there is a method by extracting the salt from the oceanic water, yes?
Yeah.
But the British say you can't do that because they have a monopoly over the salt that you all are purchasing. So, if you obtain ocean water and remove it, the salt and use that for cooking and preservation, you're breaking federal law. Despite the fact that you go to the coastline of the Indian Ocean and you can't see land for miles. There's salt out there for everyone, but the British have a monopoly, meaning they own everything. You can't do it. Okay? Now the result of this will be people actually, again, this is civil disobedience, refusal to obey unjust laws. Gandhi will go to prison, and people will begin to form little communities along the coastline and start extracting salt and selling it illegally on the streets. Now that being said, is that a bad thing?
No.
No, why?
Because they just want their rights. They'll do anything to get rights, and that's just what they want. I mean,
But they're breaking the law, isn't that a bad thing?
no. Well, yeah, it is, but like,
For the right cause.
So you're breaking the law for the right cause. Now that's a big idea there, so write this down. Breaking laws for cause. So we're going to write laws. Let's pen catch it up here. We're going to circle that, exit out. Cause. That's the major message here that Gandhi is putting forth. You don't need to follow a law that's restricting your rights. Why in the world should the British have a monopoly over, essentially, because you're arguing this, the ocean, in a sense? They shouldn't. Alex?
Well, it was also the Indian salt, like on the coast of the country, so it was their country.
Absolutely. And you guys got to consider this. Here we are, thousands of miles away in India, taking directions from a country that's way up here in Europe, telling you, as you're standing on the coastline looking at that ocean, you can't use the salt in it. A lot of people are like, this is ridiculous. Okay, we understand it's a strong and functioning government, but at the same time, there's a lot of salt out there that we could use, and it's not even going to affect the British Empire whatsoever. The objective of the day. Summarize the goals of Gandhi. We have a couple things going on here. Number one, elimination of the caste system, equality for all. Who are we essentially trying to benefit here with eliminating the caste system?
the untouchables.
The untouchables, very good. And we would like them to have some rights because they literally have nothing going for them. And the government's structured in a method through which that's going to keep existing for quite some time. We got to get rid of that. Removal of unjust laws here. We're going to look. I want you to write in salt monopoly here. Okay, that's a big one. This law doesn't even make sense, and it's restricting people's rights in India. It's just pure cooking and preservation rights, but nonetheless, would be like saying you guys can never use pepper again on any food. Some of you are going to be fine with that. Others, that's not going to work for you.
Nope.
Okay. Same theory there. Preaching aisma and civil disobedience. Make sure we have these on because those are big vocab words. Aisma and civil disobedience. Gandhi believed reform could occur through peaceful demonstration and non-violence. Make sure you guys have that. That's the approach. The method there, boycotts and the Great Salt March. Okay? So one thing you guys got to understand, Indian nationalism, unlike some other methods, is not promoted by violence. That's the big theme for today. Okay? And obviously Gandhi will be the figurehead of this whole entire movement. People will follow him because of his leadership style. Any questions about this before I show you the assignment slide?
No, sir.
Excellent. Here's what we have going on. 27.3 QREF, as always, you're going to get those back from the peer tutors in a couple seconds. 27.4 pre-read, number 1, just define, 3 through 5, answer as always. This is one that since you all are in the classroom, we'll have plenty of time to work on. I want you guys and gals to make a cartoon, I would say political cartoon, but we haven't practiced it yet. A cartoon on civil disobedience. I'm going to give you a piece of computer paper, you have to color the whole thing. Must be colored, must be neat, clearly labeled. So what you're going to do here, say for example this down here is our piece of paper. Okay? You're going to write the law here, or rule, whatever it is that you're talking about. Now this could be, for example, something that has personally affected you, that you feel is an unjust rule in your household, or a law in society. Alright? So you're going to have your rule, parentheses, whatever it is, and then draw your picture. Okay? Must clearly display law, rule, like I said, that applies to your own life. So every one of you should have a relatively different one. Now these examples could be an unjust, rule that you're the middle child in your household and you have to do all the chores where the oldest and youngest don't have to do anything. Okay, that could be unfair to you, thus you're not going to put up anymore, so you're not going to do anything. Alright? Or any other kind of example, say for example, historically speaking, women not being able to vote versus men being able to vote. Okay, that's another example. You'll have the remainder of the hour to work on all these assignments. They will be due on Friday. Now, that is because tomorrow I will be with the 42 field trip, and you all will receive the chapter review of the book, and you'll have that to be working on in class. Alright? Any questions? Perfect.